We do that. And here we go. So we're going to go look at lesson 21 in the Course of Miracles. Now, just a couple of reminders, because we've got some folks who are maybe newer to our call today. The lessons up till now, if you want to go back and find them, you can go to kwpivot2020.com, kwpivot2020.com, and I've got them all there. So if you wanted to catch up, you can go back through that. You can also get a hold of the book, or you can go online. The materials here in the United States aren't copywritten, so it's out there for everyone to grab a hold of and use. And whether you choose to buy them or whether you just choose to grab them and download them, you're fine either way, which is kind of cool. So lesson 21. Now up to this point, we've begun to uncover some of maybe the beliefs that we have that have held us back. And I'm not going to go through all the lessons up to this, but I want to just kind of review from 13 forward, right? So we worked on, in our lesson on day 13, was that a meaningless world engenders fear. We talked about the fact that God didn't create a meaningless world, and then we ended that week 2 weeks ago with the idea that my thoughts are images that I have made. So this again ties back to our programming, our beliefs, kind of all the things from the past that have made us who we are today, and then more importantly, how we see or filter things that happen in our life today. And then we began last week with lesson 16, which was that you can have no such thing as a neutral thought. There's no such thing as an idle mind or a neutral thought. And then because of that, you also see nothing as neutral. We always put a filter or something on everything we observe based on, again, our past. And then we talked about this idea that you're not alone in experiencing the effects of your seeing. That's the first time we kind of talked about that we're in this together. We're all kind of the same in a lot of the ways we're wired. It's just that all of our pasts have been different, so that our beliefs are filtered, or I would say colored by our past. Our beliefs are all different as well. And the idea that our beliefs become our perceptions and our perception becomes our reality. And that's really where this is all kind of coming back together, is that. And so what I perceive to be is true for me. What you perceive something to be is true for you, and we could be observing the exact same thing, that we could have this exact same conversation, and we'd have very different experiences. So that idea is that we're all in this kind of trying to figure it out. And then we talked about this in lesson 19 on Thursday, and that is I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of my thoughts. So not only in what I see, but also the effects of my thoughts. And then on Friday, I left you with probably kind of a turning point up to this point in the course, and that is that whole conversation about I'm determined to see. I'm determined to see. Now, on Friday, the lesson we gave you around I am determined to see was that throughout, and I challenge you to do it throughout the weekend, because this is one that was very specific in the lesson itself. And that was throughout the day, you wanted to remind yourself that you decided to see, and it was 2 times per hour per day. That was it. That was what we asked you to do. And so this is the first time we really got specific about this is what the lesson is. Remind yourself throughout the day that you really want to see, that you choose to see. I'm determined to see. I am determined to see. So I'm curious if anyone had any experience with this. Now, I'm always hesitant to open it up because none of you ever share anything. Yet I thought maybe this is one that you might start getting some experiences or something that shows up for you from. So does anyone have anything they'd like to share from the lesson from Friday? I am determined to see. And I know it's Monday morning. Okay, we're going to jump back in then, because today is kind of a continuation of that conversation, if you will, around I am determined to see. So today, lesson number 21 is this one. I am determined to see things differently. I am determined to see things differently. It's an interesting one. So I'm going to talk about, I'm going to break the lesson down, and I'm going to give you the lesson. So in lesson 21, it's both a continuation and an extension of the previous idea that I am determined to see, right? So now I'm determined to see things differently. Rather than just to see, it asks that you are determined to see things differently. Seeing and vision, as we have indicated before, are not synonymous for the Course in Miracles purposes, right? So seeing and vision are not the same in this Course in Miracles. Your real goal is not to see, but instead to perceive things correctly. to perceive things correctly. So perception revolves around beliefs. And we talked about that, right? Our perception revolves around our beliefs. As long as your beliefs are misaligned with the truth, you will not be able to achieve real vision. And I put this on a slide for you because I think that's such a powerful statement. We've hit on a lot that our perception becomes our truth, right? It's our reality. So, and we all have different perceptions. This is the first time we've said this, and it's your beliefs, they're misaligned with the truth, therefore you'll not be able to achieve real vision. It's a strong statement that the Course makes. So what you seek is not merely a different false story that becomes your provisional reality. Instead, you want to utilize correct vision while you are interacting with your perceived world. Correct vision would align and bear witness to the truth. This truth, with a capital T, is not another egoic story built around limitation and fear-based thinking. So the truth, and this is specific with the capital T, it's the truth. So the ego, when we talk about egoic thinking, the ego does not know the big picture, and therefore it's unable to properly advise you. Lacking knowledge of who you are, who you really are, your egoic mind fails to realize that what will truly make you happy. It's a big statement. I'm going to do this again because I think this is important. So your ego, which is that thing that runs most of us, does not know the big picture. Therefore, it's unable to properly advise you. Lacking knowledge of who you really are, your egoic mind fails to realize what will truly make you happy. Your egoic mind has been indoctrinated into a fear-based thought system. It believes you are the physical body and that the body is you. Believing itself to be separate, the ego sees itself in competition for the limited resources that it needs to survive. Identifying itself with the body, the ego must assume the limitations that come with the physical body that it claims as its home. The ego then fails to understand that your consciousness and your spiritual essence is not limited by this physical dimension of this thing called body. So as I was studying for this, one of the things that came to mind is I've heard this statement before, and I really believe it. Are you a physical being here on this time on earth having a spiritual experience? Or are you a spiritual being having a physical experience at this time on the earth? It's an interesting thing to maybe contemplate. So the lesson goes on to say, I would suggest that if you are determined to see things differently, you should consider major, not minor, shifts in your thinking. You can baby step your way towards a new vision, or you can decide to be open and explore a thought system based on a new paradigm. Aren't you really after a big shift anyway? Quantum breakthroughs occur when you are willing to change course, move out of your comfort zone, and onto a different direction. So now may be the time to make that decision. See, you've been indoctrinated into a fear-based thought system. You can never find joy, happiness, and inner peace that you seek and that you deserve with the same fear-based thought system. It's impossible. Let me say that again. You will never find joy, happiness, and inner peace because they're incompatible with fear. You need a new vision. You need a new plan. So that's kind of foundational to today's lesson. I'm going to go back and read the lesson itself as it was written in the Course itself. And it said this, that the idea for today, that I am determined to see things differently, is obviously a continuation and extension of the preceding one, which is that I am determined to see, right? Now, this time, however, specific mind-searching periods are necessary for the lesson today. In addition to applying the idea that you are determined to see things differently to particular situations as these situations may arise. So that we're asking for 5 practice periods today, allowing a full minute for each. So 5 practice periods of this lesson, a full minute for each. Now, in the practice periods, begin by repeating the idea today that I am determined to see things differently. and you repeat that idea to yourself at the beginning of the lesson, then close your eyes and search your mind carefully for situations past, present, or anticipated that arouse anger in you. So things that upset you. The anger may take the form of any reaction ranging from mild irritation to down and out rage. The degree of the emotion you experience doesn't matter. Let me say that again. The degree of the emotion you experience does not matter. You will become increasingly aware that a slight twinge of annoyance is nothing but a veil drawn over intense fury. Interesting, isn't it? So let me say that again. You begin to increasingly become aware that a slight twinge of annoyance is nothing but a veil drawn over intense fury. Now, try therefore not to let the little thoughts of anger escape you in that practice period, because you might be searching for the big ones. Remember, it's just a veil over what's underneath that. And remember that you do not really recognize what arouses anger in you, and nothing that you believe about what arouses anger in this connection means anything. Those are some of our past lessons. You will probably be tempted to dwell more on some situations or persons than on others, on the fallacious grounds that these situations are more quote-unquote obvious. This is not so. So one is not greater than the other. It's all the same. Little thoughts of anger as well as more obvious ones all result in the loss of your inner peace. It is merely an example of the belief that some forms of attack are more justified than others. So as you search your mind for all the forms in which attack thoughts present themselves, those things that brought some level of anger, hold each attack thought in mind while you tell yourself these two things. I am determined to see whatever that is, if it's a person, differently. So again, we want specificity to whatever that thought is that you've got. Or you would say, I'm determined to see whatever that situation was differently. Again, try to be as specific as possible. You may, for example, focus your anger on a particular attribute of a particular person, believing the anger is limited to this one particular aspect. If your perception is suffering from this form of distortion involving one specific attribute of a particular person, then say this: I am determined to see that whatever that attribute is in whoever that person is differently. Right? So the example is, I'm beginning to see the lack of punctuality in Mary differently. Like if you've got someone that, they're always late, that drives you nuts, then start to name whatever that attribute is and start seeing them differently. And it's really, I'm determined to see. It's not I choose to see, I'm determined to see. I'm determined to see. Languaging is very important in this today. Now, in all of that, so any questions on the lesson itself? And again, I'll post that on the website. If you want to unmute yourself, just hit the little microphone in the bottom left corner of your screen, or hold down on your space bar. Actually, that'll unmute you. Because I'm going to give you one other piece. This gets a little more complicated, but this is important that we get to this spot today as well. We talked about your egoic mind doesn't really know what the big vision is. It only knows the physical piece of this, and it's your egoic mind is part of your physicalness. It's your body, if you will. And so the idea is, do you really know what that vision is? We talked about now may be the time to shift and make it something massive. It's time for big change, should you choose. Should you be determined to do that? And that's really the conversation. And in order to do that, you've got to know what your vision is currently. And so I've got just a couple questions. And if you're taking notes, you may want to write these questions down and contemplate them. And it's kind of funny that, well, it's not funny. It's meant to be. I'm working with my transformational coach, one of the people that coaches me in my world. And I think I shared this with you last week, that when I started working with him, his name is George, about a year and a half ago, it was in April of 2019. I said to him the very first session, I need you to help me determine who I want to be when I grow up, or what I'm going to be when I grow up. I said that when I was 53 years old. Now I'm 54, and I still haven't figured this out. We're working on it, though. One of the lessons he has me working on this week is a similarity of this lesson. So when I was prepping for this over the weekend, I had to chuckle. What I'm going to ask that you do, and you may want to write this down, is ask yourself these series of questions. First is you've got to see who you are currently. So how do you see yourself? And I'd like for you to write down what you see as your three greatest strengths. What are your three greatest strengths? Now, this is not a chance or a time for being humble. This is a chance to just be real and be right with yourself. By the way, I'm not going to ask you to share this with anybody. This is for you. So what are your three greatest strengths? What are your three greatest weaknesses? What are your three greatest weaknesses? Again, this is just for you. Write those down, though. What are those three things that would be the three greatest weaknesses you believe you have? And then with a single word, what are the character traits that describe your personality? What are the character traits? Three single words, three words that describe who you are from a personality standpoint. So when you do those things, so you're going to have your three greatest strengths written out, your three weaknesses written out, and then the three words that describe your personality. As you review those list of 9 things, the question to ask yourself is this: are you satisfied with your current vision? Are you satisfied with your current vision? And if you're not, so again, do these 3 questions first. So, and if you look at it, if you're not satisfied with it, write down a different vision of who you would like to become. This is the time for creation. So when you list those 3 single word character traits that such a person would have to possess in who you would like to become. So then change the, in essence, we're rewriting the script. That's all we're asking you to do. And really do it in writing. That's what we're going to strongly suggest. So if you desire to make quantum leaps, you need to honestly assess both where you are currently and where you choose to go. It ties in, those who have been in bold before, or maybe you're doing bold pivot. We talk about one of our bold laws, be, do, achieve. This is the being part of that whole conversation. It's, who do you see yourself as you determine what the vision for yourself is, who you would like that to be. And then we'll take it from there when we get into tomorrow's lesson. So I threw a lot at you today. I'm going to take the screen share off. So any questions or thoughts or comments, anything that we talked about today?
Hey, Darren. Yeah, so I think the thing that struck me was something you said last week, but it ties in with what you just talking about this today. And that is, if your thoughts create your reality, what are you thinking? Like if your thoughts are 100% creating your reality, and that stopped me dead in my tracks this weekend. So every time my mind wanted to go to its usual place, I stopped myself. So it was pretty powerful.
Yeah, I love that, Barb. And it's that awareness, and then it's that reaction that's so powerful. So that's awesome. That's awesome. And for everybody, please understand where your thoughts take you is based on everything up to this point in your life, right? It's the programming is another way we've talked about that you've had. And we're just saying that you may not have to settle for that. You could choose something different, and that's really what that is. So I love that, Barb. Thanks for sharing it. Thank you. Any other thoughts, comments, or questions? All right, guys, have an awesome Monday. We've got some great training coming up today if you choose to jump into it. We'll see you tomorrow if nothing else, by the way, go register for that class on Wednesday. It's a great 3 hours with Dick Dillingham. Again, it's free, and it's in the Zoom format, so you can do it from anywhere. We will see you tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, so thanks for being with us today. Have a great day. Goodbye, everybody.